Okay. So friends, today we are going to discuss the 7th chapter from Art and Culture book. Okay, it is 11th standard NCERT book on fine arts. So this chapter is about Indian bronze sculpture. So it is just going to be a book reading session. So while reading this chapter, whatever important keywords that we come across, so I'll be highlighting those keywords also for you. Okay. So from my side, it will just be a reading session. So if you have not read this chapter earlier, so it is going to be beneficial for you. You can just be online, you can just attend the reading session so that you can quickly go through this chapter, and later on I'll be sharing the PDF of this book also in the groups. Okay, you can like get this particular PDF and read from the highlighted text. And apart from this, like I'll be uploading this particular video in YouTube so that like you can later on go through this particular chapter. So without wasting much time, let us start reading this chapter. Okay. So Indian sculpture had mastered the bronze medium and the casting process as much as they had mastered terracotta sculpture and carving in stone. The Sire Peredu or lost wax process. Okay, so this particular term, Sire Peredu and lost wax, they are these names for the same method. The Sire Peredu or lost wax process for casting was learned as long ago as the Indus Valley civilization or Indus Valley culture. Along with it was discovered the process of making alloy of metals by mixing copper, zinc, and tin, which is called bronze. Okay, so when they mix copper, zinc, and tin, so this is known as bronze. Okay, so I'm highlighting this word also for you. Bronze sculpture and statues, statues of Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain icons have been discovered from many regions of India dating from the 2nd century until the 6th century. Most of these were used for ritual worship and are characterized by exquisite beauty and aesthetic appeal. At the same time, the metal casting process continued to be utilized for making articles for various purposes of daily use, such as utensils for cooking, eating, drinking, etc. Present-day tribal communities also utilize the lost wax process for their art expression. Perhaps the dancing girl from Mohenjo-daro. Okay, so this is also very important keyword over here. Perhaps the dancing girl from Mohenjo-daro is the earliest bronze sculpture datable to 2500 BCE. Okay, so they are saying it is not very, established fact, but perhaps. So they are saying that perhaps the dancing girl from Mohenjo-daro is the earliest bronze sculpture datable to 2500 BCE. The limbs and torso of this female figurine are simplified in tubular form. A similar group of bronze statues have been discovered from archaeological excavations at Daimabad in Maharashtra, datable to 1500 BC. Significant is the chariot. Okay, significant is the chariot, the wheels of which are represented in simple circular perhaps, while the driver or human rider has been elongated, and the bulls in the forefront are modeled in sturdy forms. Okay, so here to the right of this particular page, we can see our image over here. This is a sculpture. So in this sculpture, we can see that a person is there right on the top of a snake. Okay, so this is Nag. On the top of this snake, that person, this deity is there. And so here there is a pedestal also, like below this. Okay, so this particular like a sculpture is a Chola bronze sculpture that was found at Tamil Nadu, and it denotes Kalia Daman. Okay, Kalia Daman. So it is a Chola bronze sculpture from Tamil Nadu. So let us continue reading. Interesting images of Jain Tirthankars have been discovered from Chausa, Bihar, belonging to the Kushana period during the 2nd century CE. It is also important information. They are saying that the interesting images of Jain Tirthankars have been discovered from Chausa, Bihar, belonging to the Kushana period during the 2nd century BC. These bronze show how the Indian sculptures had mastered the modeling of masculine human physique and simplified muscles. Remarkable is the depiction of Adinath or Rishabhnath, okay, who is identified with long hair looks dropping to his shoulders. Otherwise, Tirthankars are noted by their short curly hair. Okay, so this is here if you talk about Adinath, okay, Adinath or Rishabhnath. So they are like Tirthankars from Jainism, but they are identified, okay, they are identified with long hair locks dropping to their shoulders. But otherwise, if you talk about other Tirthankars from Jainism, so they have shorter hairs. Then Gujarat and Rajasthan have been strongholds of Jainism since early times. A famous hoard of Jain bronze was found at Akota on the outskirts of Baroda, dated between the end of the 5th century and the end of the 11th century CE. Finally cast through the lost wax process, these bronzes were often subsequently inlaid with silver and copper to bring out their eyes, crowns, and details of the textiles on which the figures were seated. Many famous Jain bronzes from the Chausa in Bihar are now kept in the Patna Museum. Many Jain bronzes from Jhansi in Haryana and from the various sites in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka are kept in various museums in India. Okay, let us read the next paragraph. The hoard of bronzes discovered in Akota near Vadodara established that bronze casting was practiced in Gujarat or Western India between the 6th and 9th centuries. This is a very important information, that the hoard of bronzes discovered in Akota. Akota is a place near Vadodara, okay, Vadodara in Gujarat. It established that bronze casting was practiced in Gujarat or Western India between the 6th and 9th centuries. Most of the images represents the Jain Tirthankaras, okay, like Mahavir, Parshavnath or Adinath. This is very important. A new format was invented in which Tirthankaras are seated on a throne. They can be single or combined in group, or three, or in a group of 24 Tirthankaras. Okay, so like they can be in group of 3, they can be seated single also, 2 people can be seated, or a group of all the 24 Tirthankaras of Jainism can be represented here. Female images were also cast representing Yakshinis or Yakshinis are also known as Shashana Devis, okay, Shasana Devis, okay, of some prominent Tirthankaras. Stylistically, they were influenced by the features of both the Gupta and Vakataka period bronzes. Okay, so this is very important information over here. That the thing is, stylistically, they were influenced by the features of both Gupta and Vakataka period bronzes. Okay, this Vakataka kingdom was in news this year in 2019. Okay, so you should be learning about the Vakataka kingdom also. Okay, Vakataka rule. Then the Chakreshwari is the like Shashana Devi of Adinath in the Ambika is of like this particular information is also very important. Sometimes they directly take up the lines from the art and culture book, okay, and they ask in the examination. Many standing Buddha images with right hand in the Abhaya Mudra were cast in North India, particularly in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar during the Gupta and post-Gupta periods, that is between 5th century and 7th centuries. This is very important. So Abhaya Mudra, they are saying that many standing Buddha images with right hand in Abhaya Mudra, okay, Abhaya Mudra in right hand were cast in North India, particularly Uttar Pradesh and Bihar during the Gupta and post-Gupta periods between the 5th and 6th, between the 5th, 6th and 7th centuries. The Sanghati or the monk's robe, okay, Sanghati is something which is a cloth, okay, that is there on one of the shoulders of Buddha, okay, or on any monk, okay. So Sanghati does not mean a person over here. It simply means a kind of, cloth that is there on one of the shoulders of Gautam Buddha. So we have already discussed about it in our previous chapter discussion. So the Sanghati or the monk's robe is wrapped to cover the shoulders, which turn over the right arm, while the other, while the other end of the drapery is wrapped over the left arm. Eventually, the pleats are held by the extended hand of the same arm. The drapery falls and spreads into a wide curve at the level of the ankles. The Buddha's figure is modeled in a subtle manner, suggesting at the same time the thin quality of the cloth. The whole figure is treated with refinement. There is a certain delicacy in the treatment of the torso. Okay, the figure appears youthful and proportionate in comparison to the Kushana style. This is very important, that the figures that we are talking about here, they appear youthful and proportionate in comparison to the Kushana style. In the typical bronze from the Dhaneshwar Khera, Uttar Pradesh, the folds of the drapery are treated as in the Mathura style, that is in a series of dropping down curves. Sarnath style bronzes have folders drapery. The outstanding example is that of the Buddha image at Sultanganj, Bihar, which is quite a monumental bronze figure. The typical refined style of these bronze is the hallmark of the classical quality. Okay, so we will read further, but before that, let us do one thing. Let us go through the images that we come across. Okay, so friends, whosoever has joined, this is just a book reading session. I'm reading the book for you, and side by side, I'm also explaining the things for you. Okay, so after then I'll be sharing this particular highlighted chapter with you. You can go through this chapter again, and at the same time, what you can do, you can watch the YouTube video that I'll be uploading after this discussion. Okay, so this is one of the image, the left side image over here that you can see. This image depicts Shiva family, okay, belonging to the 10th century Common Era, and it is there in Bihar. Okay, it is there in Bihar. So this is family of Lord Shiva. Okay, so this Lord Shiva is a Hindu deity. Now, if we talk about the right side image over here, so this right side sculpture depicts Ganesh. Okay, Lord Ganesh, belonging this particular sculpture belongs to the 7th century CE, and it is there in the state of Kashmir. Okay, so these two are, so left side image shows Lord Shiva's family belonging to the 10th century CE Bihar, and the right side shows Lord Ganesh, okay, from 7th century CE from the state of Kashmir. Okay, the erstwhile Kashmir. So Kashmir is no longer is a state. Okay, it is a union territory with a legislature. So now let us see this particular image over here. So this sculpture shows a Devi. Okay, it is Chola bronze sculpture, and it has been recovered from the state of Tamil Nadu. Okay, so this thing over here, so you can see the body of this particular sculpture is greatly proportioned. Proportion in the sense, if we talk about the length of the hand, length of the entire leg, and face and everything, this somehow this imitates how a exact human being looks like. Okay, so this is a Devi, means this is a female goddess over here that is being depicted. Now let us continue reading this particular thing, and before we read that thing, so let us understand about this lost wax process. Okay, what do we understand by lost wax process? So here you can see a person. This person is working on a sculpture. He's making a sculpture using lost wax process. During the lost wax process, what is said, it is said that people do not speak anything to one another, and they do not speak. They walk silently, and they walk silently as a respect for the deity that they are working on. Okay, so this is one of the thing. But now let us read about lost wax process. What do we mean by this? The lost wax process is a technique used for making objects of metal, especially in Himachal Pradesh, Odisha, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, and West Bengal. In each region, a slightly different technique is used. Okay, so the thing is, in which states it is practiced, lost wax techniques? Himachal Pradesh, Odisha, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, and West Bengal. Okay. The lost wax process involves several different steps. First, a wax model of the image is made by hand of pure beeswax that has been like melted over an open fire and then is strained through a fine cloth into a basin of cold water. Here it resolidifies immediately. It is then like pressed through the pikri or fanri, which squeezes the wax into a noodle-like shape. These wax wires are then wound around the shape of the entire image. Okay. So the thing is, the process here, they have discussed about the lost wax process in detail over here. So what I expect from you, once I share this particular chapter with you, you just read about this lost wax process. I have actually seen how these sculptures are made. Okay. So the thing is, you just need to read it to understand what do we mean by lost wax process. Okay. So let us continue reading this particular paragraph over here. Okay, so we'll be reading further about it. So Vakataka bronze images of the Buddha from Fofnar, Maharashtra are contemporary with the Gupta period bronzes. It is a very important information that the bronze sculptures of the Vakataka period, okay, of the Buddha from the Fofnar in Maharashtra. Fofnar is a place in Maharashtra, are contemporary with the Gupta period bronzes. They show the influence of the Amravati style of the, okay, so they show the influence of the Amravati style of sculpture, okay, in Andhra Pradesh in the 3rd century CE, and the same time there is a significant change in the draping style of the monk's robe. Okay, Buddha's right hand in Abhaya Mudra is free, so that the drapery clings to the right side of the body. Drapery means like sanghati. Okay, sanghati means a kind of cloth that is there on one of the shoulders. Okay, that cloth is like a kind of gamcha that we say in Hindi. So that is known as sanghati. So in Abhaya Mudra, one of the hand of Lord Buddha is there. Okay, so it seems like he's giving blessings. Okay, but the thing is, it is Abhaya Mudra. It simply says like, do not worry. Okay, do not bother about anything. I am there with you. Be calm, like that. Okay, so Lord Buddha tries to depict that thing. So Buddha's right hand in the Abhaya Mudra is free, so that the drapery clings to the right side of the body contour. The result is a continuous flowing line on this side of the figure at the level of the anklets of the Buddha figure. Okay, at the level of the this thing of the Buddha figure, the drapery makes a conspicuous curvilinear turn as it is held by the left hand. Okay, then before reading further, let us see this particular sculpture which is there on the left side of this screen. Okay, so this sculpture, it seems like it is Lord Ganesh. Okay, so this Lord Ganesh is this sculpture is from Kashmir, and it belongs to 7th century CE. Okay, it belongs to 7th century CE. Now let us learn further. The additional importance of the Gupta and the Vakataka bronzes is that they were portable, and monks carried them from place to place for the purposes of individual worship or to be installed in the Buddhist viharas. In this manner, the refined classical style is spread to different parts of India and to Asian countries overseas. Himachal Pradesh and Kashmir regions also produced bronze images of the Buddhist deities as well as Hindu gods and goddesses. Okay, so the thing is, if we talk about the North Indian states of Himachal Pradesh and Kashmir, so in these regions also they have produced bronze images of Buddhist deities as well as Hindu gods and goddesses. Most of these were created during the 8th, 9th and 10th centuries and have a very distinct style in comparison with the bronze from other parts of India. A noteworthy development is the growth of different types of iconography of Vishnu images. Four-headed Vishnu, also known as, this is Chatura, so four-headed Vishnu is also known as Chaturanan, okay? Chaturanan, or he is also known as Vaikuntha Vishnu, okay? Four-headed Vishnu means like Lord Vishnu is shown having 4 heads, and he is also known as Chaturanan, okay, Chaturanan or Vaikuntha Vishnu, was worshipped in these regions. Which regions? We are talking about the North Indian states like Himachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. While the central face represents Vasudeva, okay, central face represents Vasudeva. So here we can see bronze sculpture from Himachal Pradesh. So let's see that, like, if this is Lord Vishnu, so 4 heads can be seen. One head is there, one head is here, one head is here, another head is here, okay. So this is also known as Chaturanan or Vaikuntha Vishnu. Then, while the central face represents Vasudeva, the other 2 faces are that of Narsimha and Vara. Okay, this is very important, that the like central face represents the Vasudeva, okay, while the other faces represent Narsimha and Vara. So this central face, it may be Vasudeva, then other face may be Narsimha and Vara. Okay, this upper image is Lord Vishnu, like that. So let us learn further. The Narsimha avatar of the Mahisha Sura Mardini Durga. Okay, Mahisha Sura Mardini Durga images of Himachal Pradesh are amongst the very dynamic bronzes from the region. Okay, so let us see this particular sculpture which is there on the right hand side over here. So this sculpture shows a Nataraja, okay, from the Chola period, and it belongs to the 12th century CE. Okay, so it is the sculpture of Nataraja from the Chola period and belonging to the 12th century Common Era. Okay, let us learn further. In Buddhist centers like Nalanda, a school of bronze casting emerged around the 9th century during the rule of the Pala dynasty in Bihar and Bengal regions. In the gap of a few centuries, this sculpture at Kurkihar near Nalanda were able to revive the classical style of Gupta period. Okay, a remarkable bronze is of a 4-armed Avalokiteshvara. Okay, this is a very important information over here, so I'll be highlighting it. A remarkable bronze is a 4-armed Avalokiteshvara, which is a good example of a male figure in a graceful Tribhanga posture. Okay, Avalokiteshvara is a male figure, and it shows a Tribhanga is a posture. Tribhanga means like body is broken into 3 different parts, like body is shown into 3 different angles. Okay, so this is the thing. Worship of female goddess was adopted, which is a part of the growth of the Vajrayana phase in Buddhism. Okay, so the thing is, during the Vajrayana phase of Buddhism, female goddesses were also adopted and they have been worshipped. Okay, now images of Tara became very popular. Okay, so Tara is also a like Buddhist, it is a Buddhist goddesses, okay, goddess or god, I'm not sure about it. So images of Tara became very popular. Seated on a throne, she is accompanied by a growing curvilinear lotus stalk, and her right hand is of Abhaya Mudra. Okay, so the thing is, this Tara, so here they have given the details about Tara, that the right hand of Tara is in Abhaya Mudra. Okay, so the chapter is about to end now. The bronze casting technique and making of bronze images of traditional icons reached a high stage of development in South India during the medieval period. Although bronze images were modeled and cast during the Pallava period in the 8th and 9th centuries, some of the most beautiful and exquisite statues were produced during the Chola period in Tamil Nadu from the 10th to 12th centuries. The technique and art of fashioning bronze images is still thankfully practiced in South India, particularly in Kumbakonam. Okay, so Kumbakonam is a place in South India where the technique of fashioning of bronze images is still thankfully practiced. So this particular, like fashioning the bronze image is still practiced over there. So here they have given the sculpture. Here they have given the Nataraja sculpture on the left side, and on the right side they have explained about this Nataraja. So here you can see, if we talk about Nataraja, it seems that Nataraja is standing with one hand, feet on a pedestal. This particular pedestal seems to be a inverted lotus type of thing. So it is an inverted structure. The entire thing is made up of metal, it seems. And then over here we can see a circular, like, you know, circular fashion, like circular thing. And then this Nataraja is actually, you know, dancing. So it has two legs, but how many hands can we see over here? One hand, two hand, three hand, four hands. Okay. And like two hands are like free of anything, but like two hands are holding something over here. Okay. This Nataraja also shows that, like, on the head, okay, there is something that crowns this particular Nataraja. So let us read about it. Shiva is associated with the end of the cosmic world, with which this dancing position is associated. Okay, so the thing is, if we talk about this Nataraja is associated with Lord Shiva. Okay, so Nataraja is associated with Hinduism or Brahminism. Okay, then in this Chola period, bronze sculpture. Okay, this is a Chola period bronze sculpture. So I'm highlighting this thing also. In this Chola period bronze sculpture, he has been shown balancing himself on his right leg, okay, and suppressing the apasmara, the demon of ignorance and like forgetfulness. Okay, apasmara is a demon. Demon means like it is something undesirable. Okay, so like this Nataraja is suppressing the apasmara. Apasmara is the demon of ignorance and forgetfulness with the foot of the same leg. At the same time, he raises the left leg in Bhujanga Tarista stance. Okay, so this thing, like if we talk about left leg of this Nataraja, so left leg is raised above, and this left leg is described here as Bhujang Tarista. Okay, Bhujang Trasita stance, which represents Tiro Bhava, okay, that is kicking away the veil of Maya and illusion from the devotee's mind. Okay, so this thing, if we talk about Bhujang Trasita simply means it represents Tiro Bhava. Tiro Bhava means like this Nataraja sculpture is kicking away the veil of Maya. Okay, we have already understood about Maya. What do we mean by Maya? We have discussed. Okay, Maya or illusion from the devotee's mind. His four arms are, okay, so as I have already discussed that he has four arms. Okay, his four arms are outstretched, and the main right hand is posed in Abhaya Hasta. Okay, the right hand is posed in Abhaya Hasta or Abhaya Mudra. Okay, means like this right hand is, saying to its devotees that don't be fearful about anything. Okay, so be cool, be calm, don't be fearful. Okay, so this right hand over here, it is being shown as Abhaya Hasta. Okay, or the gesture suggesting, the upper right holds the damru. Okay, if we talk about the upper right hand, okay, the upper right hand holds the damru, which is his favorite musical instrument to keep on the beat tal. Okay, so this upper right hand of this particular bronze sculpture, it holds a damru. Okay, and like it is the favorite musical instrument of Nataraja. The upper left hand carries a flame, while the main left hand is held in Dhol Hasta and connects with the Abhaya Hasta on the right hand. Okay, so upper left hand also is holding something. It is carrying a flame. Upper left hand is carrying a flame over here. We can see upper right hand is holding a damru. Then lower right hand is in Abhaya Mudra. Okay, and if we talk about lower left hand, okay, lower left hand is held in Dola Hasta, okay, and connects with the Abhaya Hasta on the right hand. Okay, so it is in Dola Hasta, and lower left hand is Dola Hasta. Upper like lower right hand is in Abhaya Mudra. Upper right hand is holding this thing Damru, which is the favorite musical instrument of Nataraja, and Upper left hand is holding a flame, okay, carries a flame. So this is the description about this Nataraja. His hair looks fly on both the sides, touching the circular Jwala Mala. Okay, his hair looks fly. Okay, so locks fly on both sides, touching the circular like Jwala Mala or the garland of flames which surrounds the entire dancing like figuration. So the thing is this, but if we talk about the hair, okay, this hair like the hair is locking in such a manner that it is looking like a garland of flames, and this thing is actually like connected with the entire circular this garland of flames. Okay, so under this garland of flames the entire Nataraja is shown. Okay, so this is all about the description of this particular sculpture. Okay, so only last page is remaining. So let us quickly see this particular sculpture also. So on this sculpture, description is not shown, but here the thing is this description may be there in this particular paragraph that we are going to read. Okay, there is another, so it is Lord Ganesh, as we know. Okay, so let us read further. Okay, last. The distant guy's patron, okay, during the 10th century was widowed Chola queen. Okay, like widowed Chola queen was one of the distant guy's patron, and her name is Sambian Mahadevi. Okay, Sambian Mahadevi. Chola bronze are the most sought after collector's item by art lovers all over the world. Among the Pallava period bronzes, the 8th century is the icon of Shiva seated in Ardha Paryanka Asana. Okay, Ardha Paryanka Asana, we will understand about it. Okay, so this is a very important information. Among the Pallava period bronze, the 8th century is the icon of Shiva seated in Ardha Paryanka Asana. It simply means one leg kept dangling. Okay, Ardha Paryanka Asana. The right hand is in Achamana Mudra gesture. Okay, right hand is in Achamana Mudra gesture. So the thing is, the moment you come across this particular word, Achamana Mudra gesture, means like it is the Achamana position. It is associated with Lord Shiva. If it is associated with Lord Shiva, it means it is associated with Buddhism, Hinduism, suggesting that he is about to drink poison. Okay, so this thing, the Achamana Mudra suggests that that Lord Shiva is about to drink poison. A well-known dancing figure of Shiva is Nataraja was evolved and fully developed during the Chola period, and since then many variations of this complex bronze image have been modeled. A wide range of Shiva iconography was evolved in the Thanjavur or Tanjore region in Tamil Nadu. The 9th century, okay, Kalyan Sundara Murti. Okay, so the thing is this, when we talk about this Kalyan Sundara Murti, it is the 9th century. Okay, 9th century sculpture is highly remarkable for the manner in which Panigrahana. Panigrahana means a ceremony of marriage. Okay, these are the important keywords you should be learning. Panigrahana, it is a ceremony of marriage, is represented by two separate statues. Okay, Shiva with his extended right hand accepts Parvati's, okay, the bride's right hand. Okay, it is very important. Shiva with his extended right hand accepts Parvati's, or like Parvati is the bride of Lord Shiva. Okay, so like he accepts the right hand of Parvati, who is depicted with a bashful expression and taking a step forward. A union of Shiva and Parvati is very ingeniously represented in the this Ardha Narishwara Murti. Okay, Ardha Narishwara Murti. When we talk about Ardha Narishwara Murti, it is a union of Shiva and Parvati. Okay, Ardha Narishwara Murti shows union of Shiva and Parvati in a single image. Beautiful independent figurines of Parvati have also been modeled, standing in a graceful Tribhanga posture. Okay, so the thing is, it is standing in a graceful Tribhanga posture. During the 6th century, known as the Vijayanagar period in the Andhra Pradesh. Okay, when we talk about 6th century, it is known as the Vijayanagar period in Andhra Pradesh. Okay, these sculptures experimented with portrait sculpture in order to preserve knowledge of the royal patron of posterity. At Tirupati, life-sized standing portrait statues were cast in bronze depicting Krishna Deva Raya with his two queens. Okay, so this is a very important information, okay, that we should be highlighting. At Tirupati, life-size standing portrait statues were cast in bronze depicting Krishna Deva Raya with his two queens, Tirumala Lamba and Chinna Devi. This sculpture has combined the likeness of the facial features with certain elements of idealization. The idealization is further observed in the manner of physical body, in the manner the physical body is modeled to appear imposing as well as graceful, and standing king and queens are depicted in praying posture. That is, both hands are held in Namaskara Mudra. Okay? So this is very important information. So that's all that we had to discuss in today's chapter. So I'll be just quickly, like taking you through all the things that we have discussed. So we have discussed this particular chapter today, which is Indian bronze sculpture. Here we have seen the lost wax techniques. Okay. Then we have come across some of the images, dancing girl from the Mohenjo-daro. Okay. It is the earliest bronze sculpture datable to 2500 BCE. And this is Kalia Daman from Chola bronze sculpture from Tamil Nadu. Okay. So these are the things. So we will quickly see some of the images that are there. This is Shiva family from the 10th century CE. This left one. The right sculpture is depicting Lord Ganesh. It belongs to the 7th century CE from Kashmir. And this is like goddess Devi, and it is Chola bronze sculpture from Tamil Nadu. Then we have a person who is making a bronze sculpture using lost wax technique. So I have discussed, like, during making, sculptures, they do not speak anything. They keep themselves, quiet. Then this is Lord Ganesh from the state of Kashmir. And it is a 7th century, sculpture. Then this is bronze sculpture from Himachal Pradesh. Okay. So that's all from for today. This is Nataraja Chola period from 12th century CE. Okay, this is again Nataraja. Then these are the things. These are the things that we have come across in today's chapter. So I hope it was understood everything. Okay, so the time is about to, like session is about to get finished. So anyone having any question, you can ask your question. I'll try to respond your answer. Okay, so with this, I'm concluding this chapter.